Mr. Mera had always found solace in the quiet corners of the park. The world around him was ever-changing, but the park, his sanctuary, remained the same. It was his escape, a place where the weight of years didn't feel so heavy, and the hustle of life didn't drown out his thoughts. Every day, like clockwork, he would sit on the same weathered bench beneath the sprawling oak tree. It had become his spot, his home within the park's embrace. But as the days turned into months, and the months into years, Mr. Mera began to feel the emptiness of the bench. The park that had once felt like a space of comfort now seemed vast and distant. The laughter of children, once a reminder of life's vibrancy, became a distant hum. Friends had long since passed, and his family, busy with their own lives, rarely visited. His bench had become his only companion, and in the quiet of his solitude, loneliness crept in. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the park, a group of children ran past Mr. Mera's bench, laughing and chasing after a fluttering butterfly. One of the children, a little girl with pigtails, paused and looked at him, her curious eyes searching his face. "Why do you sit here alone?" she asked, her voice sweet and untainted by the world's complexities. Mr. Mera blinked, startled by the sudden question. He hadn't expected anyone to notice him. The children were always running, playing, their worlds full of joy and light. He hadn't realized how isolated he had become until that very moment. He smiled weakly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I like the quiet," he said, his hands resting gently on the arms of the bench. The little girl smiled and nodded, but instead of running off, she stood by his side for a moment, watching him. Then, with the innocence only a child could possess, she sat down beside him, cradling a small flower in her hand. "I brought you this," she said, offering him the flower. "It's for you, Mr. Mera. You don't have to be alone." Her words, simple and pure, pierced through the layers of loneliness that had wrapped around his heart. For the first time in a long while, he felt seen. The little girl's offer of a flower wasn't just a gesture. It was an invitation into a world he had thought he had lost. He hesitated for a moment, then took the flower from her small hands, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Thank you," he whispered, his heart swelling with gratitude. Over the following weeks, the children returned. One by one, they approached the old bench. Some would sit beside him, others would stand and chat, telling him stories about their games or sharing their dreams of becoming astronauts or doctors. Each day, the bench felt a little less lonely, the air a little warmer, as the children brought their laughter and energy into Mr. Mera's world. He began to look forward to these moments, the sound of their voices, the way they would pull up chairs or sit cross-legged on the grass around him, eager to hear his stories or share their own. The park, which had once felt so empty, now felt like a place of community. One afternoon, as Mr. Mera sat watching a game of tag unfold before him, a group of children gathered around the bench, smiling brightly. One of them, a boy with wild hair, took a crayon and drew a butterfly on the back of the bench. "This is for you, Mr. Mera," he said, his face flushed with excitement. "We want to make sure everyone knows you're our friend. You're special to us." The other children nodded in agreement, their faces beaming with affection. Mr. Mera's heart swelled with emotion. He had never imagined that his quiet presence, his simple act of sitting on a bench, could touch so many lives. But it had. In their eyes, he wasn't just an old man sitting alone. He was a friend, a teacher, a listener. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The park became a place of joy and laughter for Mr. Mera, not because he sought attention, but because he had found it, through the children who had opened their hearts to him. And as the seasons changed, so too did Mr. Mera. The loneliness that had once defined him slowly melted away, replaced by a sense of belonging and connection. Years later, when Mr. Mera was no longer able to sit on the bench, the children, now grown, returned to the park, carrying with them the lessons he had quietly imparted. The bench where he had once sat, day after day, was now a symbol of something much more than solitude. It was a symbol of connection, of shared moments, of a life that had touched others in ways words could not fully express. On the back of the bench, beneath the crayon-drawn butterfly, a sign was placed. It read, "Reserved for Mr. Mera, teacher, listener, friend."